I always trusted Arthur. Not just as my husband, but as the man I believed was my partner in life and in politics. As my chief of staff, he had access to everything: campaign files, confidential strategy memos, and, I had thought, my heart. But that trust shattered in a single, quiet moment, staring at his iPad on the kitchen counter. I was searching for a campaign draft when I noticed the screen lit up. It wasn't supposed to be on. And then I saw it. Deleted texts. My pulse spiked, and my hands trembled as I tapped the screen. "Last night was amazing, Mr. Future Governor." The words made my stomach drop, my chest tightening so violently I thought I might collapse. I scrolled through the conversation, my eyes scanning the flurry of messages between Arthur and Chloe, the 22-year-old campaign intern who was always hanging around during long strategy sessions. The words weren't subtle: late-night rendezvous, declarations of passion, plans to meet while I was supposedly at fundraising events. I dropped the iPad, the device hitting the counter with a soft clatter. No, this can't be real," I whispered, though my voice cracked with a mix of rage and disbelief. Arthur appeared in the doorway, casual as ever, a glass of water in hand. "Diane, what are you doing up?" His tone was smooth, almost innocent. I looked at him, fury sparking in my chest. "Don't lie to me, Arthur," I said, my voice trembling. "I saw the messages. Chloe, you've been sleeping with her?" He froze, his confident mask slipping for a fraction of a second. Then he smiled, that practice smile he used in meetings and press conferences. "It's not what you think, Diane. You've been under so much stress." "Don't," I snapped. "Don't even start. I saw it. All of it. How could you? While I trusted you. While I believed in you." Arthur's eyes hardened and his voice lowered. "You don't understand politics, Diane. Sometimes sacrifices, personal sacrifices, are necessary for the greater good." "The greater good?" I laughed bitterly, tears threatening to fall. "You mean yourself. You've been lying to me, cheating on me, and now hiding it behind political ambition. That's your greater good?" He sighed, shaking his head. "You're overreacting. This is nothing. Just focus on the campaign. That's what matters. Let me handle." "Handle?" I repeated, my voice rising. "You've destroyed any trust we had. Any partnership." I didn't finish. My head was spinning, and the room felt suddenly small, suffocating. I backed away, gripping the countertop, feeling my knees weaken. Everything I had built, my career, my marriage, my future, was suddenly under attack, not by rivals, but by the man I had sworn to love and trust. As Arthur moved closer, I realized just how dangerous he could be. The casual charm, the political savvy, they masked something colder, something calculated. He wasn't just cheating, he was planning, manipulating. And I knew, deep down, that I had just scratched the surface. I ran from the kitchen, locking myself in my study, shaking with betrayal. My mind raced. Campaign donors, press contacts, the media, all of it could be turned against me in minutes. And who else could I trust in this world where deceit ran so deep? Then I thought of Vaughn, my brother's oldest friend, a man who had always been in the shadows, smoothing political crises before they erupted. Loyal, discreet, and formidable. If anyone could help me navigate the storm I was walking into, it was him. I pulled out my phone, hands still trembling, and typed his number. "Vaughn, I need your help. It's Arthur. He's betraying everything. I don't know who to trust." As I hit send, I felt a mix of fear, anger, and a spark of hope. For the first time since discovering the betrayal, I realized I wasn't completely alone. And if I played my cards right, I could turn this betrayal into something more: justice, survival, maybe even something I hadn't allowed myself to imagine in years. Trust again. The storm was just beginning, and I was already preparing to fight. I couldn't sleep that night. Not after what I'd discovered. Arthur's betrayal wasn't just emotional, it was dangerous. Every glance at him now carried a silent threat. And worse, I could feel his calculating mind working, plotting. He wasn't the man I had loved. He was a predator hiding behind a facade of ambition and charm. The next morning, I went through my schedule with a heavy heart. The press conference to address the scandal he had hinted at was looming, and I felt the walls closing in. But I was determined not to let him control me. Not anymore. Arthur appeared in the study, casually sipping his coffee, looking impossibly calm. "Morning, Diane," he said, flashing that practiced smile. "You look tense. Don't worry, I've handled everything. The media will see it your way." My hands clenched around the papers on my desk. "Handled what, Arthur?" My voice was sharp, but controlled. "Don't pretend. I know what you're planning. I saw the texts. Chloe. The messages. The lies." Arthur's eyes flickered with irritation, then softened in that manipulative way he always did. "Diane, you're overreacting. This scandal is nothing. You just need to take your medication, calm down, and trust me." "Medication?" I repeated, suspicion prickling at the back of my neck. My instincts screamed at me. There was something off, something sinister in his calm tone. "What are you giving me?" He smiled, innocently, and handed me a small bottle of sedatives. "Just something to relax before the conference. You'll feel better. I promise." I stared at the bottle, my mind racing. The betrayal, the deceit, and the feeling of danger all hit at once. I knew him too well. Arthur was never this caring without an agenda. My pulse quickened. I don't think I should." "Diane," he said firmly, his hand brushing mine in that condescending, familiar way. "Trust me. You'll thank me later." I realized then just how far he had planned to go. The sedative, he was trying to make me dependent, to control me, to make me vulnerable. And my instinct screamed at me that this was no ordinary pill. He was setting me up, and I was dangerously close to walking right into it. I excused myself, my mind spinning. I couldn't let him win. I couldn't let him dictate my fate, or worse. As I sat alone in my study, I pulled out my phone again, fingers trembling, and dialed Vaughn's number. "Vaughn," I whispered when he answered, my voice barely steady. "It's worse than I thought. He's going to kill me. Not just betray me, he's planning something. I don't know if it's tonight or tomorrow, but it's coming." There was a brief pause on the other end. Then Vaughn's low, steady voice reassured me, though I could hear the gravity in it. "Diane, stay calm. Don't take anything from him. Keep your distance and trust me. I'll handle this. You're not alone." Hearing Vaughn say those words was like a lifeline. The fear, the panic, the rage, they were still there, but I had an ally now, someone who understood the danger and had the power to fight back. I realized in that moment that surviving this wasn't just about exposing the betrayal, it was about reclaiming control over my life. Arthur had underestimated me. He had underestimated how far I would go to survive, and who I had on my side. And I was ready. The storm was approaching, and this time, I wasn't walking into it blindly. I had Vaughn. I had a plan forming, and I had the fire inside me to fight back, before it was too late. I woke up to sunlight slicing through the blinds, soft and almost cruel in its serenity. Birds chirped outside, oblivious to the storm I knew was waiting. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, a reminder that today was the day the scandal was supposed to hit the media. The headlines, the whispers that would try to ruin everything I had worked for. But I wasn't powerless today. I wasn't going to faint, to hide, or to let Arthur dictate my fate. Something inside me had shifted in the hours of darkness, in the long, sleepless night when fear had gripped my chest. I had been given a second chance. Not a literal second life, but a moment, a reprieve, to act before the storm hit. I reached for my phone and saw the string of messages from Vaughn. He had stayed up with me in the night, guiding me through each step. "Stay calm. Don't engage him directly. Watch. Record. Wait for my signal." The simplicity of the instructions belied their power. I felt a rush of gratitude and a pulse of trust that steadied my racing heart. Arthur would not see this coming. He assumed I was trapped, helpless, dependent, cornered by scandal. But I was awake now, alert and calculating. I dressed quickly, choosing a conservative but striking outfit, and double-checked the small recorder I had hidden in my briefcase. Every move today had to be deliberate, precise. I couldn't risk any mistakes. The office was eerily quiet as I walked in. Arthur sat behind his desk, pretending to read a report, his expression calm. Too calm. He looked up at me and smiled, a smile that was meant to disarm. "Diane," he said smoothly, "I see you're awake early. Feeling better?" I kept my expression neutral, my voice steady. "I'm feeling focused," I replied, allowing just enough cordiality to avoid suspicion. I was reviewing the campaign strategy and thought I'd start early. His eyes narrowed slightly, though the smile remained. "That's diligent of you. Don't worry about the press. I've handled everything. You just need to." I cut him off, smiling faintly, calm but cold. "Handled everything? Arthur, I trust you handled everything for yourself, not me." He blinked, the first real flicker of unease crossing his face. I felt a thrill of satisfaction. I was no longer the pawn. I was awake, aware, and in control. Before he could respond, my phone buzzed. A message from Vaughn. "Step 2. Follow the plan. He's overconfident. Don't give him a reason to suspect." "I'm ready." I nodded subtly, more to myself than to him. I would bait him, expose him, and have the proof of everything. The affair, the embezzlement, the lies, all ready for the right moment. "Arthur," I said slowly, drawing his attention fully, "I've been thinking. Perhaps it's time we audit the campaign finances. Transparency is crucial, don't you agree?" His confidence faltered, just slightly, a hint of panic in his eyes that made my pulse race. He opened his mouth, searching for a lie, a deflection, anything, but I didn't give him the chance. Because today I was awake. Today I had the chance to rewrite everything. Today I was no longer a victim. I was the architect of my own survival. And I would make sure Arthur paid for every betrayal. The sound of the knock on my office door was almost too loud in the silence. My pulse skipped. I wasn't expecting anyone except Vaughn. And deep down, I hoped it was him. "Diane," he said, stepping inside, closing the door behind him. He wore his usual tailored suit, calm and precise, but there was a weight in his eyes that told me he understood just how dangerous today could become. "Vaughn." I breathed, relief washing over me. Thank God. I don't know what to do next. He's planning everything, this scandal, this sedative. I feel like I'm walking into a trap. He closed the distance, his presence grounding me. "You're not walking into anything alone," he said firmly. "Not today. Not ever. I've been monitoring Arthur, Diane. He's reckless. Overconfident. And he thinks you're too weak or too shocked to fight back. He's wrong." I let out a shaky laugh. "Weak? After discovering his affair and his schemes? I don't think so. But how do I stop him without tipping him off?" Vaughn pulled a chair close and sat across from me, leaning forward. "We turn the trap around. He wants you vulnerable. He wants you to panic. But you're going to be the calm one. We have evidence of the embezzlement, the affair with Chloe, and the manipulations. Timing is everything." I nodded, absorbing his words. Every instinct in me wanted to fight, to strike immediately. But Vaughn's presence reminded me that patience and precision were my real weapons. I trust you," I admitted quietly. The words felt strange on my lips, but true. His eyes softened, just slightly, a flicker of something deeper passing between us. "Good. That's important. I can guide you through this, but you have to trust yourself too. You're stronger than you know." I felt my chest tighten, a mixture of anticipation, gratitude, and something I hadn't allowed myself to acknowledge before, a subtle pull toward him. Vaughn had always been in the background, protecting my brother, advising me quietly. But now, seeing him here, so close, so focused on keeping me safe, it stirred something unexpected. He reached into his briefcase and pulled out a folder. "Here," he said, sliding it across the desk. "This is everything we've gathered. Deleted texts, financial records, security camera footage. If we time it right, we can flip the scandal, Expose Arthur, and make sure Chloe can't cover her tracks either. I ran my fingers over the papers, my mind racing. This is everything? How did you even get all of this? I have my ways, he said, a hint of a smile tugging at his lips. But none of it matters if we don't act smart. You need to appear calm, poised, in control. Let Arthur underestimate you, as he always does. I exhaled, letting the tension drain just slightly. And after this, after it's all exposed, Vaughn's eyes met mine, steady, intense. Then you decide what comes next. But Diane, I'll be here. Not just for the fight. For everything after. You're not alone in this, and you won't be. Something in his words struck me, deeper than gratitude or relief. The trust one had placed in him wasn't just strategic, it was personal, emotional. And I felt the beginnings of something more, a quiet flame that had been waiting for the right moment to ignite. I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. I trust you, Vaughn. Completely. He gave me a small, approving nod. Good. Then, let's make sure Arthur regrets ever underestimating you. For the first time that morning, I felt a spark of hope. And maybe, just maybe, hope wasn't only for survival. It could be for trust, for justice, and even for love. The morning light filtered through the office blinds, but I barely noticed it. My focus was entirely on Arthur, on his arrogance, his overconfidence, and the fact that he still thought he could control me. Vaughn was already at my side, scanning the room like a general before a battle. Remember, he said quietly, we're not rushing. We're letting him think he's in control. Every move we make has to look natural.
Calm.
Confident. I nodded, the words echoing in my mind.
Calm.
Confident. Easier said than done when your husband has betrayed you in ways that could have killed you. But I had been given a second chance, and I was not going to waste it. Arthur arrived, coffee in hand, grinning as if nothing were wrong. Morning, Diane, he said smoothly, sliding into his chair. Ready to handle the day? I met his gaze directly, my voice steady. I am. Actually, I wanted to go over some campaign finances with you. He raised an eyebrow, feigning interest. Of course. Always the diligent senator. I smiled faintly, letting just enough warmth seep through to keep him off balance. Vaughn leaned subtly behind me, his presence grounding me without drawing attention. I could feel him like an anchor, and it gave me strength. As we began reviewing the figures, I noticed Arthur's confidence waver in small ways. The quick glance at his phone, the subtle tightening of his jaw. Vaughn caught it too, and gave me the slightest nod. Our silent communication was perfect. We were in sync. Something seems off with this report, I said casually, flipping through the pages. These expenses, some of these reimbursements, they don't match the receipts. Arthur's hand twitched toward a folder, but I was faster. Oh, don't worry. I've double-checked everything, I said, my voice calm but firm. Actually, Vaughn, could you pull the audit files from last quarter? Vaughn's eyes met mine for a brief moment, a flicker of shared satisfaction passing between us. He retrieved the files silently, handing them to me with a subtle smile. It was small, but in that gesture, I felt an intimacy that was as powerful as it was comforting. Arthur's brow furrowed. Why? Why are you digging through this? It's fine. It's all fine. His composure cracked just slightly. That's interesting, I said, pretending to notice it for the first time. It seems there's a discrepancy here. Maybe you could explain these transfers? Arthur's face hardened. It's administrative. Nothing to worry about. I leaned forward slightly, my tone soft but pointed. Administrative or intentional? He opened his mouth, but before he could lie, Vaughn subtly nudged the tablet toward me, revealing the screenshots and financial evidence we had prepared. Arthur's eyes widened as he realized what was happening. The trap was closing around him. How? He stammered, panic creeping into his voice. I smiled faintly, my heart racing. I think you underestimated me, Arthur. And you forgot one important thing. I'm not alone. Vaughn here has been helping me see clearly. Vaughn stepped forward, his presence protective, firm, yet gentle. We've got everything, Arthur. The affair, the embezzlement, The lies. It's all documented. And it's about to be public knowledge. Arthur's confidence crumbled, his bravado melting into desperation. I felt a thrill of satisfaction, but it was tempered by the warmth radiating from Vaughn. He had my back, not just professionally, but personally. I realized in that charged moment how much I relied on him, not just to protect me, but to stand with me, side by side. And maybe, just maybe, that reliance was turning into something more, something deeper than trust. I let him stew for a moment longer before continuing. Consider this your first warning. Next time, you won't be able to charm your way out of it. Vaughn's hand brushed mine briefly as we gathered our files. The gesture was small, but it sent a spark through me. It was a promise, a reassurance, and perhaps the beginning of a bond one wasn't ready to fully name, but I was beginning to feel it. Arthur was cornered, and I was alive, aware and ready. And with Vaughn by my side, I knew there was no betrayal, no scandal, no lie that could break me. The morning of the press release, the city felt electric, buzzing with whispers of the impending scandal. Every news outlet seemed to be waiting for the first drop of dirt, and my stomach twisted at the thought. But I wasn't panicked. Not anymore. Today, the story would be mine to control. Vaughn arrived early, as usual, his expression unreadable yet reassuring. "You ready?" he asked quietly, standing close enough that I could feel his presence without looking at him. I took a deep breath, gripping the folder containing all the evidence we had compiled. "I'm ready. More than ready." He nodded, the faintest hint of a smile tugging at his lips. "Good. Just follow my lead. I'll handle the timing, you handle the delivery. Arthur won't know what hit him." We arrived at the press conference room, the cameras blinking and reporters murmuring. Arthur had already been informed that I would make a statement. He thought he was prepared. He thought he could manipulate this. I let him think that. "Senator Diane," a reporter called as we entered. "Are you going to address the scandal circulating this morning?" I smiled, calm, poised, my heart hammering with anticipation. "Yes," I said, my voice steady, each word deliberate. "But first, I want to clarify a few things about transparency and accountability, values I hold not just in my office, but in my life." Arthur shifted uneasily off camera, noticing the subtle change in my demeanor, the authority radiating from me. Vaughn stayed close, his hand grazing mine briefly as he passed me the tablet. That small contact was grounding. I could feel the trust, the connection, the unspoken promise that he had my back, no matter what. I tapped the tablet, and the first piece of evidence appeared on the big screen behind me. Financial records showing embezzlement, direct transfers that Arthur had tried to cover. Gasps filled the room. I let them settle, my voice calm, even gentle. "And here," I continued, swiping to the next slide, "is proof of infidelity with a campaign intern, Chloe, which was deliberately hidden to manipulate not just me, but the public." Arthur's face turned pale. He opened his mouth, but the flash of the cameras and the reporters' pens poised for notes made him hesitate. Vaughn leaned slightly closer to me. "Keep it simple. Let the evidence speak." I nodded, my pulse steady. This was meant to be a personal betrayal, yes. But it was also a professional attempt to destroy my reputation. "And yet," I said, allowing a small, confident smile, "it has only reinforced my commitment to integrity, transparency, and accountability." The room erupted into murmurs. Reporters were scrambling to capture everything, the evidence, now undeniable. Arthur's hands trembled slightly as he fumbled with his phone. Vaughn's presence at my side gave me courage. I felt a quiet warmth, a reassurance that went beyond protection. He had orchestrated this flip, yes, but more than that, he had been the anchor in the storm. Every glance he gave me carried trust, loyalty, and something deeper that made my heart tighten in a way I hadn't expected. By the time I finished the presentation, Arthur was exposed, cornered, powerless. The scandal had flipped entirely. The city, the media, even our campaign team now knew the truth. And I had survived, not just intact, but stronger, poised, and unshaken. As the reporters filed out, Vaughn finally let his gaze meet mine fully. "You handled that beautifully," he said softly. "I've never doubted you for a second." I smiled, my chest swelling with a mixture of relief and something more tender. "I didn't do it alone. I trusted you, and that made all the difference." He stepped closer, close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating off him. "And I'll always have your back, Diane. In this office, and everywhere else." A shiver ran through me, not from fear, but from the realization that the trust we had built in the fire of betrayal was growing into something deeper. Something neither of us could ignore any longer. The scandal was over. Arthur was finished. And for the first time in months, I felt safe, in control, and maybe, just maybe, ready to let myself fall for Vaughn. Arthur didn't wait long. I suppose he couldn't stand knowing that his carefully constructed world had begun to crumble. The knock on my office door was sharp, urgent, almost desperate. My pulse skipped, not from fear this time, but anticipation. Vaughn was already beside me, calm as ever, his presence a shield. "I expected this," he murmured, his hand brushing mine briefly. The touch was subtle, almost imperceptible to anyone else, but it made my chest tighten in a way I hadn't felt before. I opened the door, and there he was, Arthur, the man I had loved, the man who had betrayed me in ways I could have never imagined. His usual arrogance was replaced by a flash of unease, though he tried to mask it with a forced smile. "Diane, we need to talk," he said, voice low, almost pleading. I stepped aside, letting him in, my smile polite but icy. "Of course, Arthur. Let's talk." He started pacing, words spilling over each other. "Look, I can explain. It wasn't supposed to go this far. You don't understand." I cut him off, my voice calm but sharp. "No, Arthur. You need to stop pretending. I understand perfectly. I understand betrayal. I understand manipulation. I understand greed. And I understand that today, none of it will save you." He froze, and I saw the first real glimpse of fear cross his face. Vaughn stepped forward, solid and commanding, making Arthur take a step back. "You underestimated her, Arthur," Vaughn said, his tone low but deadly serious. "You thought Diane was weak, that she would be silent, that she would be helpless. You were wrong." Arthur's eyes darted between us. This isn't over," he spat, trying to regain control. I let out a soft laugh, shaking my head. "Oh, Arthur. It's over. And the truth is already public. The press has all the evidence they need. Your embezzlement, your affair, your lies, they're all out there. And now, you're going to face the consequences." He lunged, as if to grab the evidence, but Vaughn moved faster, placing a firm hand on his shoulder, blocking him. "Step back," Vaughn said quietly, but the command in his voice was undeniable. I watched Arthur's facade crumble completely. The man who had tried to control my life, who had plotted my downfall, now looked small and powerless in the face of the evidence, the law, and us. I took a step closer to Vaughn, feeling the warmth of his presence beside me. "Vaughn," I said softly, almost privately, "thank you. For everything. I couldn't have done this without you." He looked down at me, a faint, almost tender smile touching his lips. "You don't need me to save you, Diane. You've been in control all along. I just helped you see it." The intimacy in that moment was electric. My chest tightened, my heart raced, not from fear, but from the undeniable connection I felt with him. Vaughn had always been there, quietly supporting me, guiding me, protecting me. And now, seeing him not just as my ally, but as someone I could trust completely, I realized how much I had come to care for him. More than I had expected, more than I could have admitted before. Arthur's protests faded, replaced by silence. He was finished. And as I watched him leave, escorted by the security team Vaughn had discreetly called, I felt a surge of relief, of triumph, and of something sweeter, something deeper blossoming between Vaughn and me. Vaughn's hand brushed mine again, this time lingering just a heartbeat longer. "You did it, Diane," he said softly. I smiled, leaning slightly toward him. "We did it," I corrected. And in that moment, I realized it wasn't just about revenge or justice. It was about trust, loyalty, and the beginning of something new. Something real. Something neither of us had expected, but both of us desperately needed. And as our eyes met, I knew I was ready to see where this could go. The city felt different that morning. Brighter. Lighter.
Free.
The storm that had hovered over my life for months, the lies, the betrayal, the fear, had finally passed. Arthur was gone, exposed, and powerless. Chloe had been dismissed and publicly denounced for her part in the affair. And I, Diane, had survived, not just intact but stronger, wiser, and ready to reclaim my life. Vaughn stood beside me in my office, watching as I signed the final documents officially transferring control of the campaign accounts and securing all evidence of Arthur's embezzlement. His presence had become a constant in the last few days, a steady anchor in a world that had been anything but steady. "You've done it," he said softly, leaning close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating from him. His eyes held a depth I hadn't dared look into before, a mixture of admiration, respect, and something more, something that made my pulse quicken. I set down the pen and smiled at him. "We did it."
I didn't do it alone, Vaughn.
You were there every step of the way. I don't know what I would have done without you." He shrugged lightly, though his eyes softened. "You would have done it. You're Diane. You've always been strong, smart, and unstoppable. I just made sure no one could take that from you." The words warmed me, but it was more than that. The look in his eyes, the closeness, the unspoken understanding between us. All the tension, all the fear, had melted into something tender, something intimate. I felt it in my chest, a quiet, persistent pull toward him. I took a tentative step closer. "Vaughn." My voice caught, unsure. I had spent so long trusting no one, relying only on my own strength. But now I realized there was room for more than survival. There was room for trust, for connection, maybe even love. He reached out, gently brushing a strand of hair from my face, his thumb tracing my cheek. "Diane," he said softly, "you don't have to face anything alone anymore. Not betrayal, not politics, not anything." My heart leapt. "I know," I whispered. "And I want to be with you. If you'll have me." Vaughn's lips curved into a slow, confident smile. "I've wanted that for a long time. I just needed to know you were safe. That this was your choice, not born from desperation or fear." I stepped closer, closing the small distance between us. "It's my choice. I trust you, and I want this. I want us." He cupped my face with both hands, his touch gentle but firm, grounding me. "Then we'll do it together," he said, and that simple promise carried more weight than any words Arthur or anyone else could ever have spoken. Our first kiss was slow, deliberate, full of relief, tenderness, and passion. It was the culmination of months of fear, anger, and trust building. The spark that had always been there, now finally ignited. I felt safe in his arms, protected, and more importantly, wanted. When we pulled back slightly, Vaughn rested his forehead against mine, smiling. "We have a lot to rebuild," he murmured. "Your campaign, your life, and maybe thus." I laughed softly, feeling the tension of the past weeks melt away. "We'll rebuild it all. Together." For the first time in what felt like forever, I wasn't just surviving. I was alive. And I was ready to step into a future not dictated by betrayal or fear, but by trust, love, and partnership. Vaughn squeezed my hand gently. "To new beginnings," he whispered. I smiled, feeling the warmth of hope and affection settle deep in my chest. "To new beginnings," I echoed, knowing that, at last, my life and my heart were finally in safe hands. And with Vaughn by my side, I knew I could face anything.